Welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. On this podcast, we believe that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women and non-binary people are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. With our team of experienced writing coaches as co-hosts, we'll share insights and talk to inspiring guests to bring you the practical strategies, systems, and mindset shifts you need to find time to write, publish work you love, and design your career on your terms. And it all starts with writing. Let's go.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Academic Writing Amplified. My name is Gina, and I'm one of the coaches at Scholars Voice. I work with women and non-binary scholars inside our high-touch coaching programs like Amplify and Elevate and our signature program, Navigate. And simply put, my job is to help clients get their writing published in a healthy and sustainable way. And today's episode is really about this new name, Scholars Voice, and what it means to me as a coach and as someone who's been with the company for quite a while now. So I really want to start, before even telling this story, I want to note that this change really represents years and years of growth and iterations behind the scenes. And so first, I want to thank all of the clients who have been with us from the beginning as we tried out new things and made mistakes and changes and ultimately learned really important lessons. And I also really would like you to sort of reflect back on yourself for a moment and use this change, this name change, to highlight the fact that change takes time. So change needs to brew or simmer or cure, or cook, whatever your metaphor is. And that process is rarely visible to those around us. And honestly, we might not see it ourselves. And so I hope that this name reveal reminds you that you may also have big things coming that you don't know about yet. So these exciting changes take time, they take patience, and most importantly, they take self-trust. So after this podcast is over, you might want to take a minute and ask yourself, what do I have brewing within myself? And you might be surprised at what you find. So on to the main topic of this episode, which is really my absolute excitement about this name change. I love this new name, and I'm going to start with the word scholar, of course. And this word really resonates with me because we conceived of it as a really inclusive term that maybe could cut through some of the hierarchy and separation and isolation that academia promotes. And now to get into a little bit of history. When Kathy started the company and when I came on board, we were really centering the American tenure track system because that was more or less what we knew about. But as the company grew and we got more and more clients and they became more diverse, we realized we had people working outside of the US. We had people working in institutions that either didn't have tenure or didn't call it tenure, people in non-university research positions. We've even had people in libraries and government agencies. And really, if we were to resist change, which is something that, sometimes we want to do, it's a little bit scary, but we saw that if we didn't change, if we continued to view success and progress using the traditional American terms, that we would continue to perpetuate this academic mindset that we are actually trying to change. And so I want you to think about it like this. There will always be programs and coaches that tell you that you need to get tenure and they will help you get it. And there will always be programs that tell you what you need and promise to get you there. And we intentionally, really consciously decided that we didn't want to be that. We want to be a company where we find out where you really want to go. We help you think about where you want to be, and then we help you get there. And on a more personal note, this sense of inclusion is really important. As coaches, we bring our own experience and background to the work. And so my story of feeling like I didn't fit in academia has definitely influenced all of the coaching that I've done. And as a woman of color, I'm also a first-generation college student. I come from a working class background. So, when I was thinking about going into academia, I didn't see a lot of role models. And, when I was in graduate school and as a professor, I never really felt like I belonged, even with all of my credentials, no matter what outside support or approval that I got. I just really was never going to feel like I was part of this culture. And that sense of outsiderness and that need to quickly learn the rules that everybody else already seemed to know, that was a tension that really followed me through my whole career and always felt kind of unresolved as a professor. And then, of course, when I left academia, titles became this even more stressful. Do I put PhD on my email signature, even if I'm not a professor and therefore not using it? I'm not going to share all of the anxieties that I went through because that would be a very long podcast. But, it's really, really important for us to be thinking about all of the weight that these titles carry with them. And so in my coaching, I often get the who am I question all the time. Who am I to write a book? Who am I to receive an NIH grant or become a research chair? We are not trained in any way to look at our past efforts and milestones and celebrate them as successes. So within this mindset, this kind of never enough mindset, no matter how much amazing work we do, and no matter how amazing the work is, we will always feel like imposters and fakes. And as a side note, our clients have actually done all of these things that I just mentioned and other really amazing things. And I coach them through the process each time. And without fail, these clients started out sure that they did not measure up. And what they did was they put their feelings first because we've really been conditioned to do that in some kind of misguided attempt at self-improvement. And they forgot about all of their hard work and they zeroed in on every mistake that they've ever made. And this is great in wilderness, life or death, survival situations. But really that kind of mindset doesn't belong in your head when you're writing an application letter. So to bring it all together, the word scholars really unites us as a community, separate from titles and awards and all the baggage that they carry. And we get to build a real community that is both safe and supportive. And we get to use this sense of outsiderness, this sense of otherness, this sense of who am I to actually connect to each other. And this lets our clients become very authentic and vulnerable with each other. And honestly, if there is any kind of potion, any kind of silver bullet to emotional and professional growth, that would be it. Sharing their fears, concerns, needs, and wants, not just with me, but with each other. So we're all really aware of how isolating academia can be, and especially so for anyone who doesn't fit into any kind of traditional mold. So, if you've tried to connect with colleagues at your own institution, those relationships might feel inherently unsafe and competitive. And really, it's your job to take a look outside of those spaces to find places where you can really feel safe and supported. As kind of an aside and maybe a little personal note, I'm a big fan of science fiction, and I really love the whole concept of world building. And I'm going to take that term and I'm going to use it because I feel like it's really appropriate here. We're building a world that we get to shape intentionally. And my favorite part of this world is that we will never shut down an idea because, and I'm using quotations here, that's not how we've done it in the past. I've heard that phrase so many times, and it really has felt like the hallmark of academia. This common sense belief, again, I'm using my quotation marks, common sense belief that there is only one way to do something, and that the well-being of faculty and maybe even students is not as important as maintaining structure and tradition. So the concept of world building also means that as a coach, as an employee of the company, I get to take care of myself. I took some time off when I was sick. We take a sabbatical in the summer to really give ourselves a break and rest and do that restoration work. And also I get to stay true to my mission and values and choose work and follow work that is really aligned with those things. And I am here to say, and this is very, very important, this is how work should be. This isn't an ideal. This is really something that we should be working for all the time. I want my work life to be a model for my clients because we really kind of deserve to be seen as human beings and not part of the machinery. And so I know it sometimes feels like a small thing, but it really does start with one person speaking up and saying, I need more than this. This idea of speaking up and asking for what you need, that's where we're going to move into the voice part of Scholars Voice. So this community of outsiders and non-traditional scholars is really the start. So we've got this inclusive, authentic space that will be the client's jumping off point. It's going to be your jumping off point to have your voice heard. So again, personal story. I have to admit that I was terrified to do podcasty stuff. I have never really liked my voice all that much. And the first few times we tried to do podcasts, when we would start recording, I would get so anxious, maybe even getting anxious telling you the story. But the thing is, the world actually needs my vocal fry and my ums and likes. They don't need those things necessarily, but those things come as part of the package, and that's fine. I've gotten a little bit more comfortable with podcasting, but really I had to push through the first few episodes by reminding myself that my voice and, more importantly, my message is worth hearing. And that's where Scholars Voice, and way back when we were Kathy Mazak, the company was founded on the idea that we need a more diversity of voices. We need more marginalized voices. We need more female and non-binary voices, because those are the ones that are going to transform academia into something that actually represents the people in it. And I don't know that anyone will argue with me that we've been inundated with male voices. There are authorities. They're the people we listen to on, we watch on TV and we listen to on the radio. There are chairs and our deans and our presidents, and they are the ones making the rules. They're the ones who establish institutional culture. And I can tell you that they are all scrambling to keep the status quo. And up to this point, they've really never had the experience of someone questioning them or refuting their arguments. As I was putting together this podcast, I had a one-on-one with a client who was dealing with this issue, but in terms of teaching. And I thought it would be really interesting to think about that for a moment. Because teaching is when all of our marginalized identities seem to light up like neon, and we can get very nervous about this idea of being the expert or the authority in front of a group of people. And this is exactly where we need to find our voices and use them. And I say it like it's not difficult, I know, but it is, and it's going to take a while, right? So the voice part of Scholars Voice is really about learning to embrace those identities and knowing that for a lot of us, our very existence within academia is inspiring to a lot of other people. So in the company and as a coach, I work to bring out those voices in our clients. And that could be by publishing an article or an academic book, finding a new position, going on a podcast to promote their work, or maybe just speaking up for themselves in a faculty meeting. Because we know that our voices have been ignored and criticized and censored and even self-censored. And we know that that has to change. So, Scholar's Voice to me really feels like a long-term collective action. We're embracing our whole selves, acknowledging that we are humans with